What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, DJ Productions and whatnot. My name is David Bermillo. And if this is your first time attending one of my workshops online, then welcome. I hope you guys learned something new. And to all of those who are returning, who have been watching me since the beginning, or who have tuned in last week, or whatever, whenever you started watching my workshops, welcome back. So I'm going to kind of jump into everything already, but if you haven't figured it out, I'm going to show you how to create that colorful cupcake graphic I did. And if you haven't seen it before, then you can go ahead and check out my Behance profile. You can check out my website. You can check out my Facebook page. You can check out my Instagram page. I've posted everywhere. And do a plug right now. I also post when I'm hosting new workshops and things of that nature on those pages as well. So if you guys are very curious and you guys are interested in knowing what I'm going to do in the future, go ahead and follow those pages and it will let you know every time I am having a workshop. So this, because of how lengthy this is going to be and because I'm going to go through an entire project, it might be a little longer than usual. So bear with me. And I'm going to do, there's not going to be as much explaining as there was in the last one because I will be using a lot of techniques that I went over in my last couple of workshops. So you guys can go ahead and check those out after if you're currently watching now and you haven't seen the ones before. So first things first, I am going to share my screen. Okay, just because I have to, and just because I feel like this will be helpful for you guys. So what I pulled up right now, this little window right here is Creative Cloud. This is your cloud for Adobe and for your Adobe projects. And as you can see, I have like the quick start guide, and underneath I have an activity stream. And there are a couple websites that are actually associated with Adobe and with Creative Cloud that you use your Adobe account to log in and to start setting up your profiles and whatnot. Behance is one of them, and I'll show you how to make one of those at the end of the video, at the end of the workshop, I should say. But here on the cloud, you can access your apps. So any kind of apps you have right here, and as you can see, I need to update these, but Photoshop, Creative Cloud versus Photoshop CS6. And we're going to be using Creative Cloud because there's a link in the description below, in the description of this video, of this workshop below, that you guys can actually click and you guys can get a free trial of the different apps, because Creative Cloud itself is free and you can have it and it will connect with your Adobe account. You can connect it again with Behance and other websites. And then you can choose which programs you want to be using. So there are assets that you can get, you can upload your files to, so that way you can access your projects in different areas, anywhere that allows internet or has internet access. You can go ahead and go to those. There is a type kit where you can start getting type and fonts, and not, you don't get type, you get fonts to make type, to make your type projects a little bit more interesting. And then there are other resources that people offer, like different vectors and different patterns that you can go and download. And again, community, my Behance is right here, and then you can check this out. And if you're connected with other people, that's what this is for. So if you guys don't have Creative Cloud and are interested in using Creative Cloud and using different Adobe products, obviously I have it because I just showed you. You can go ahead and click the link in the description. It'll take you to this page, and basically it'll go over everything that Creative Cloud kind of does and what the aim of the goal is with Creative Cloud and with Adobe products. And of course, you can, the free trial that is offered with this is, I think, a 30-day trial of all the programs, and you don't have to get all the programs at once. For example, you can start out, as you can see, I have Photoshop, Illustrator, and Dreamweaver right now. And so with free trial, you can do these three, and then 15 days later, you can have a 30-day trial of InDesign or something like that. So Creative Cloud is really open, and if you're interested, go ahead and click the link in the description. But to the tutorial. So I'm going to be teaching you how to create this image. Maybe not this image exactly, but how to create a really colorful, really stellar graphic with a cupcake. Because I feel I like cupcakes. I don't know if you guys like cupcakes, but I do. And I feel they're pretty good subject matter, and they're fun. There's a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of motion within frosting that will allow for you to manipulate it in very creative ways. So first thing you want to do is you want to go on to Google Images. Let me get out of, no, I won't get out of that. I want to go to Google Images and just search up cupcake, or you can search up cupcake photos or things like that. And the image document size of this image itself is 8.5 by 11. At least that's what I had it at a 300 DPI, and that is print regulation. So if I wanted to print it on a regular piece of paper, it'd be ready to go and it won't be blurry, or it'll be less blurry and it'll come out more high quality. But again, I got the picture from a web graphic, and web graphics are at 72 DPI, so they're much lower. In DPI stands for dots per inch. So 300, obviously, when there's more dots, there's more colors involved and there's more coverage of the colors instead of just 72 dots and then blending and whatnot. But search up cupcake and then go through and find your favorite cupcake. Right now, I just want you guys, if you're following along with me, to just find any cupcake that you think will work best. I would try to avoid using ones that have watermarks on them just because it's a little bit more difficult to hide them and it takes a little bit more time. And I don't want to show you how to do that. I want you guys to actually go, if you're going to use someone's images, I would really recommend that you ask for permission to use them. But for example purposes, and if for just demonstration purposes, and if you have a project that you just want to submit and you're not planning on selling and you're not doing anything of that nature, I say it's okay to be using this for an example. So go ahead and pull your favorite cupcake image. And I have 3 already loaded on Photoshop. So let me load those. So the 3 I chose to take into consideration are this one, and this one was right at the beginning. This one, which was somewhere. And then this last one, this brown one that I pulled up. So when it comes to this brown cupcake, as you can see in Google Images, there is a checkerboard pattern, a very faint checkerboard pattern in the background. What that means is that this is probably a GIF and it's transparent background. Like in Photoshop, when you hide your layers, there's a checkerboard background. That's transparent. That's where it's transparent. So the thing with transparent images though, or anything that has a transparent part to the image in Google Images, when you copy and paste it, be very, very careful. Here's why. I'll show you. So I'm going to right click copy. And this is the same cupcake image. Okay. Same document size. I'm going to Control V. I'm going to paste it. See the background's all black? That's what happens by default. Have I really searched into how to fix that? No, not really. But what I do is I use the magic wand tool and I click the black areas and then I hit backspace and it deletes. And I know I've said before to go ahead and use the mask tool just so you get a cleaner cut. But for this reason, I don't see why not, since it's supposed to be on white anyways. But if you really want to get very, very specific with it, you can go ahead and select the magic wand tool. You can even use the quick selection tool, and this tool allows you to select certain areas. For example, like if I just wanted to do this petal of frosting and just that petal, that's what it does. Instead of having to use the pen tool or the lasso tool, it will select that automatically, or it will select it within a similar color scheme, or things of that nature. And it'll try its best to select what you want it to select, but it never is 100%. Sometimes you may be really good with it. Other times it may not work in your favor. So to get a more, because right now it's a very harsh edge. There isn't much feathering. There isn't much smoothing of it. If you really want a very clean edge, you can go ahead and select the black areas or the areas that you don't want, and then go to select inverse and then click refine edge. And what this is going to do is I'm going to do overlay so that way you can really see what's happening. So right now, everything's at 0. So as you can kind of see here, you kind of see a harsher edge. And yeah, it's kind of tough because there is a highlight around here. But if you see on maybe this side of the cupcake, maybe this side of the cupcake, that there is a very harsh edge. What refine edge does is it tries to lock in the edges and tries to make sure that you're selecting strictly what you want to select. And then it smooths it out at the same time. So we increase the radius, it increases the selection. Well, it narrows down the selection a little bit more specifically. So let's do a 2.5. Let it load. And you probably didn't see much of a difference, but if we were to bring it all the way up to 250, you see how it added like a gradient, like a shadow underneath it. That's because it's trying to select everything behind it, and you don't want that. So I'll just leave it at 2.5 because a little goes a long way with this tool. So then smooth. This is what smooths out your edges so that way you don't have any harsh pixels, because again, you're working with pixels now. I want to go maybe a 5. That's my go-to typically, is whatever is in the radius, double it in for smooth. And then feather, I don't want to feather it too much because I don't want it to be a blurry edge, so I'll do 0.5. Let's overlay. And I'll kind of blur it a bit so that way it blends a little nicer into whatever background we decide to put it on. And then contrast, I usually just do 25. This will add a harshness to the edge selection without making it all pixel. And then shift edge. This is basically your selection, and it's going to either increase the selection size or decrease the selection size. So if I go all the way to the right, it's increased. And then maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. There is now a black outline around the entire cupcake, and that's because, again, the image that you selected, that you pasted, was on black. So I'll just go minus 25 because I feel that will eliminate a nice amount. Maybe 50. I like 50. And then decontaminate colors. And then it, like it says, it removes the color fringe from the image, and I just do 100%, and it'll give me a nice clean cut. So there you go. And what this will do, it'll automatically, usually the default is it'll automatically put it on a new layer with a mask. Again, I like using masks, so that's why I really like using the Refine Edge tool. But again, you don't have to do that, especially if the selection is pretty self-explanatory, if it's pretty there from just black, you know. But what's funny is I showed you how to do all that with a cupcake I'm not even going to use. So let me explain to you why I'm not going to use this cupcake. So like I did with my previous tutorials, I showed you how to recolor different selections and how to do like the spot color effect and things like that. And in this image, I did a lot of recoloring with the frosting, because you've seen the images on Tumblr or on the internet or on Instagram where people have ice creams and cupcakes that have really colorful frosting. And typically it's photoshopped because there are certain ways that you can't achieve certain frosting styles with real life frosting techniques. Trust me, I tried. It doesn't work out. You have to really spend your time to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go in and get closer to my frosting, get closer to the image. And I'm going to start with this kind of basic, real simple, nothing, only a heart is in the way at the top, and that's not too big of a deal, and I'll leave it that as is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to recolor the frosting. So I'm just going to do a basic color first. So I'll use my brush tool, and I'll pick, my favorite color is blue. I really like blue, so I'll do blue frosting, because why not? And then the hardness. The hardness is really determined by how harsh your edge is. As you can see, it's harsher around the actual, where the frosting touched the cupcake, instead of more so than when the frosting touches the background, because you can see it's a little bit more blurrier. It's a little bit more, you know, not as clear. There's a depth of field to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it, I'm going to actually put it at 75. Again, a little details like that do make a huge difference. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roughly kind of color around the edge. And I might increase the harshness later and come back to it. And if you've noticed, like, my brush is kind of jumpy the slower I move, that's fine. You'll get that usually. Some brushes have a really smooth, and usually the brushes that are defaulted blurry, like the soft edge brushes, are typically a lot smoother than these harsher edge brushes. Brushes. I can speak English. I said so on my application. So I'm just going to roughly do this really quick just to show you a concept. And so it's a new layer, and obviously the frosting is not completely blue because that just looks like a blue glob on a cupcake. So what I'm going to do is blend modes. These are your blend modes. Default is normal. You can go down, you can go to dissolve, and it'll dissolve all the edges. And here's a really good way to see if you've missed any piece of the frosting or the cupcake or whatever you're trying to recolor or whatever you're trying to color, just because it will show you and it's not as smooth. So it's not as hidden. As you can see, the blurriness kind of blends, and so it's a little harder for the eye to tell. We have darken, and it'll darken it. We have multiply, and it will make, it will, you know, when you multiply something versus add something, you get double the amount. That's what that does. Think of it that way. We have color burn, which is, they're hard to explain, but once you understand what they do and what kind of affects certain colors on certain things, you kind of understand what the color blend does. But I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm just showing you that there are tons, or there are quite a few out there. So I'm going to go color, and it's a light blue. Like, it's a very light blue. It's a lot lighter than I would like, but again, this is for just demonstration's sake. And as you can see in some of these areas, the cupcake underneath is turning blue as well. And from my previous workshop, I showed that on white, the color doesn't really show versus something that's a little bit more in the grayer area. But then maybe I want it darker. Another good blend mode is overlay, just because it adds a little bit more of a natural kind of hue to it. And it's like, yeah, it's not blue completely, like you can still see little bits of yellow in there, and there's a little bit of pink in there, but it looks a little bit more natural than color. Color kind of looks like it was a vector, like it was cartoony. But that looks nice. I like that. Again, there are pieces here and there that I would clean up, and that's easy. You can either use the eraser tool, because a brush is easy. It's forgivable. You can easily just get the brush back and change and add the color again. But I'm using a mask, and I just go with the color black, because the color black is the actual mask. That's what hides things. White exposes, and anything in between will change the opacity of what gets exposed or what gets hidden, depending on how you're using it. So there you go. Oh, and you can only use black and white on the mask. Just saying. There you go. So that's a little bit cleaner. I'm not going to worry about the heart right now. Then the second image. So the second image is pink. So this is definitely a darker color than the yellow, the beige-ish color. And there are stars everywhere. What I typically do is I try to avoid the stars right off the bat, but, you know, for purposes like this, I'll worry about that later. Another thing I want you guys to take into notice. So look how big this brush is in comparison to the heart, right? In comparison to the canvas itself. See how it's pretty big? It's at a 34 pixel size. If I go into this image, it's smaller. It's still 34 pixels. This is because this is a larger image. And that's things you have to take into consideration when you're getting different images and when you're working with different images, because you don't want to resize. You don't want to create a new canvas and then paste an image that's going to be incredibly small, because once you try to resize it, you're going to lose a lot of clarity, and you're going to get very pixelized images. So I'm going to zoom in and look again at the edges, and the 75 that I had it at is pretty good. And let's make it 80. Let's make this an 80 brush size, and we'll do blue again. We'll do blue again, just to keep it a little more consistent. And then I'm gonna just roughly go. There's a lot more to do with this one than there was with that last one. And for this cupcake, I'm going to show you how to create the different kind of layers of colors within the different folds of the frosting. Yeah, I kind of sort of know bakery terms. But again, I'm going to quickly, anywhere that's white, I'm not going to mind. But I'm going to show you when I get to actually putting the piece together, why that's going to make a difference, whether you go over the edge or not. So zoom out. Command or Control 0 will bring the image to a size that fits your screen, whichever it fits better, either height or width. So if you have a longer image, more than likely it's going to be smaller in height, because it's going to reach the edges of the artboard horizontally than it would vertically. Versus if it's a taller image, it will reach the top and the bottom of the artboard first. Or yeah, you get. I'm hoping you're getting what I'm trying to do this and talk at the same time, and it's not working. So again, obviously the top of that cupcake does not extend like that. It is not as round as it should be, and it probably is way farther than what it actually should be. But I'm gonna go to color. I'm gonna change the blend mode to color, and look, it's blue, just like this one. But you can see that obviously this blue is darker, even just slightly. It's darker. And you can see all the stars are blue as well, and that's no. Now it kind of looks like you really photoshopped it. So go back and create a mask, or you can use the eraser tool, and I'm gonna get a harsher edge on this. Not by much, but 85, a 10% increase. And then I'm gonna use black, and I'm gonna start erasing these areas. And as I say this, I realize that I just showed you something that could completely make this process easier, which is using either the magic wand tool or the quick selection tool to solidify these edges. there you go. So back, I'm gonna use quick selection because I like the quick selection. Make sure you're on the layer though that you're trying to select from, because the magic wand and the selection tool, the quick selection tool, are going to try to pick up the colors from the layer that it's on. So if you're on this blue layer and you're trying to select these stars, notice how it's not locking to the stars and it actually just increased to lock to the blue areas. Yeah, you don't want that. If you want to select, I'm gonna deselect it, Control or Command B. You have to actually be on the layer. So let's hide the blue layer just for example's sake, and you don't have to. You can actually just do this without it. Really quick, there you go. Just a little click and drag, and I was able to have these stars selected. And then I'm gonna go in. Nope, wrong thing, my bad. Make sure you click the brush tool with the selection still selected, and you can actually increase the brush size just because the edge is now there. And there you go. There it is. But again, like I said before, you can actually use the quick selection tool. Just make sure you're on the right layer, and you can have the layers exposed, and it'll select it just as well, because again, it's picking up from the layers, not what's actually being shown. So the stars look a little bit more natural, and I'll get into fixing that later because I think this is going to be the cupcake I use for my final project. So now we're with the brown cupcake. So this brown cupcake is going to give us a little bit more difficulty because, like I said in my last workshop or the one before that, the darker the color is of whatever you're trying to recolor, the harder it is for the pigment to pick up. See what I'm saying? So if you get into like these darker browns, these blacks, these darker grays, you start having more difficulties. And look, we're back at 32 and it's tiny. 94 is tiny. 182, just to almost a 300 brush size. I'm going to just color this black and try to talk at the same time because we all know how well that went last time. So I'm just color this really quick, and I'm going to show you why this cupcake probably wouldn't be the best selection for doing something like this. And then if you really love the shape, because everything matters when it comes to a cupcake. Like if you don't, you gotta love the frosting shape. I know I do. Like that's one of the first things that attracts me to cupcakes. But anyways, notice how it's really, really, really dark in comparison to this one. In comparison to this one is like really dark. The only thing that I find a good kind of a silver lining to this is when you're getting more specific within the frosting, it's a little bit more forgiving because the cupcake itself is brown. And it's a dark brown. Like obviously this is a chocolate cupcake. And you can't see the edge, so you don't have to worry too much about it. But it looks really dark. So if you do want to use it because you are in love with this whole shape, then you can go ahead and use white, and you can, I'm just demonstration purposes, because it's all white. And you can go down to lighten, soft light, and it'll brighten it back up. And you can decrease the opacity to adjust it accordingly. But you have to make sure that it's underneath the colored layer because you want it to color properly. Because the moment you do this, you're trying to lighten that blue area. Versus if you just do the lighten underneath the layer that's coloring, you're lightening that brown area. That's a really pretty brown. Ooh, kill them. And then you can go ahead and color, and it'll be a little bit more. Like that doesn't look too natural. And that looks too dark. But again, you can always adjust the opacity, and you can make it however you want. But I'm not going to use that cupcake image because I feel that mound is pathetic, in my opinion. If you like it, then you like it. So like I said before, I'm going to show you how to do that multicolor cupcake thing. So quick little backstory about me. I am a traditional artist, and one thing that I picked up from AP Studio Art, from just drawing in general, is thinking realistically, because I feel that is something that you definitely have to take into consideration when you're doing projects like this. Is where do the shadows fall? What part of the frosting am I really looking at? And how do I make this look extremely natural? And right now I'm just selecting all the stars because I want them all to be brown. And I'm being very careful of not selecting any of the pink, because this is pink frosting, believe it or not. Going back to that layer, and then just masking everything. There we go. Oh, I missed a star. Okay. So, final star. Deselect. So now we have brown stars on blue frosting instead of pink frosting. So, how to achieve that multicolored effect? If you guys haven't figured it out already, but what you can do is just create new layers with different colors on it. Because I do have this on color, actually, that wouldn't be too much of a problem. So if I was to create a new layer with the brush and bring the brush size down, and I'm looking at this section right here, this section of frosting right here. I want that to be green. I want it to be a lime yellow green kind of green yellow kind of color. So I'm just going to color it. And I'm going to be careful not to get the brown stars. But again, you can use the quick selection tool to hide that. Or you can erase it. Or you can lower your brush size and spend a lot of time doing it. But I don't feel like doing that. The whole point of Photoshop and the whole point of these workshops is to teach you different techniques to make sure you're getting these effects done as quickly as possible. So there we go. Quick, dirty little selection. And I think, yeah, 85. Typically, you don't have to worry too much. Like when it comes to the edges, especially if you're working, if your background is not white, 100% white or 100% black, 100% black, you don't have to worry too much about the harshness. Well, okay, let me see if I say this right. If your background of your subject that you're recoloring, if the edges touch a 100% white or 100% black background, you kind of don't have to worry about the harshness of the brush. But if there is any kind of different colors, grays, greens, reds, purples, yellows, if there is not a 100% black or 100% white, then you would have to worry a little bit more about the edges due to the fact that if you don't, you're going to spend a lot more time masking and erasing certain parts. But if you don't mind doing that and it's fine with you, then don't worry too much about it. So right now, I don't care if the edges are a little harsher. And in this part of the frosting, the edges are harsher anyways. So I'm just going to go drop down menu to color. And there you go. You have this one section of frosting that is colored. See, but that doesn't look natural. Let me explain to you why. Because you see that dip right in the middle? That would be a different color frosting if you're deciding to do a very unnatural frosting technique. So what I'm going to do is go back to color. And if you don't want to create a new layer and you just want to work on the same layer, that's fine. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to leave it on color so I can see what I'm actually doing and I can see where the fold actually is. And I'm going to go and select, let's do a pink. Do a nice pink color. Keep it very 80s. And then I'm going to go in and carefully stay in my lane. So right now, it's not coloring over the green areas. What it's doing is replacing the green areas with the pink color. So there we go. Over the top. Again, we can always mask it. And if I get really quiet during work time, it's because I'm really concentrating and I really want this to be as clean as possible. So now we have two different colors within the same layer. But again, you can always do different layers. So what I was saying before about color and how it doesn't matter if you're using the color blend mode, because if you're to do overlay, so let's hide that and let's just make this blue layer an overlay. So again, now it's like a purplish, pinkish color instead of a full-on blue. And then if I was to turn this on, it will still be, that green will still stay the same and that pink will still, although you can't really see it, that pink and that green still stay the same, whether the blue layer is on overlay or on normal or on color. They're still pretty bright. See what I'm saying? But if these colors were on overlay, it affects differently. So my suggestion is if you're going to use the overlay effect, do all your coloring on one single layer, because you're not trying to, you're not having your different layers colors argue with each other. That's how I like to think of it. But if you're doing color, I say it's perfectly fine for you to go and try to color, because what it's doing is recoloring all the different images and whatnot. Give me a second, I apologize. Okay, so maybe you don't like how harsh this edge is within the pink and the green. So we can go, and there's a tool actually that allows you to blend them without having to use the blend tool, and it's called the blur tool, and it's that little teardrop looking thing on the side. And I'm gonna increase that. Keep the hardness at 0. Because if you make it any harsher, the blend is gonna look a lot. It doesn't look like much of a blend. It looks more of a pathetic smudge. I don't know. It doesn't look as good as it would. And so what I'm doing is clicking and dragging, and it's slowly but surely blending out these edges. Because, you know, frosting is not sharp. You can't cut yourself with frosting. And if you can, you must be very, very talented. What I'm doing, see that? See how it's slowly blending? And when you increase the brush, it's blending the colors, not the image underneath. So you don't have to worry about that if it's on separate layers. So if you increase it, get a bigger radius. If you need to get tighter and you need to make the blend a little bit more specific, go ahead and do that as well. There we go. There you go. So that's that. That's where that went. So that's the basic technique on how to recolor the cupcake. Now getting to that image that I'm going to show you here. So I'm going to show you how to create this image from scratch. Maybe not exactly like this, but how to create the background and everything. Because these, you see these backgrounds. You see how they're white. So I'm going to get rid of this cupcake because you saw on the other one, I have the liner, the paper liner colored as well. So I'm going to do that again. I can't do that with this cupcake, and I can't do that with this cupcake. I can, but it's an ugly cupcake, like I said before. I'm not going to use that. No offense to the cupcake, but I don't want to use it. So I'm going to start a new, let's look at the image size first. So let's look at it in pixels. Okay, so at a 72 DPI, this is 1811 and 1978 pixels. Okay. So obviously I need to use something bigger than that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and use the preset US paper. And it's at 8.5 by 11, 8.5 width, so it's a portrait. If you're printing on a piece of paper from your printer at home, portrait. So it's going to be taller. At a 300 resolution, maybe not. Let's do 72. Because you can always adjust the resolution. You can always adjust the height and width and everything later. So there you go. So let's look at this size. Let's look at it in pixels. Pixels. So obviously that's not good enough. So if we increase, that's still not good enough. You don't want it to be too ridiculously big. Let's just do 300. You know what? It has to be 300 now. Because the problem, and you guys probably know this, and you guys, like I said before, the problem with working with bigger document sizes is one, it takes up more space when you save them down. Two, there's a lot of images on the internet that won't be able to fit on the size. So at a 72 DPI, I'm going to select all, and I'm only going to copy the cupcake because I'm going to recolor it differently. So I'm going to paste the cupcake. There, it's a relatively good size, and as you can see, there is a line, there is a box. So that background is not actually white. I lied to you. I apologize. That's what color is the dress. That's that concept right there. So automatic contrast, auto color, and then auto tone. What this is going to do, this is going to fix your image, and this is going to make any image that you use. But be very careful with it, because sometimes your blue background may turn yellow, or your green sky will turn purple if you have a green sky. I don't know. You might live on Mars or something. But you can still see there is a grayish in the background. So let's fix that really quick. Adjustments, level. You know what? No, I lied. I apologize. Don't do that. Why? Because we're going to add a different background and it's going to be a darker color. So I'm going to show you how to create this realistic looking background. So what you're going to do is you're going to go, and we have our cupcake selection, so we can get rid of that. On Google Images, search up a grunge texture. And any grunge texture will really do, but if you stick to like the darker textures, it works out a lot better. So let me change since we're working with a large document, I mean, you may be working on a smaller document depending on which cupcake you're deciding to use or what your subject matter is. So I'm just use a large image because let's wait. No, I don't want that. Wait for it. I mean, I guess. Okay, so I'm gonna copy the image. I'm gonna paste it underneath the cupcake. And how do you make sure it's underneath the cupcake is, see that image is tiny. Never mind. There's gonna be drama all on its own. I can guarantee you that one. Okay. Shoot. Hopefully this loads. Whatever. Because you can preview the size. Okay, let's try this one. Let's see if this works. Wait for it. Back it up. I'm just trying to prove the whole pixel thing. So watch, if you paste this image, if you paste the one I did before and it's too small, and you increase it, you start seeing it gets blurrier. And it's kind of blurry. The more I zoom in, if I get into 100, you can see it lost a lot of clarity. And you don't want that. I mean, if it's a background and you're going to blur it anyways, I guess it's fine, but I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this image. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it behind the cupcake image. There we go. And it's fine that it's not going to reach the top because there are going to be two purposes that I'm going to use this for. So I'm going to paste it twice. I think I said that already. So I'm going to paste it twice, and I'm adjusting the layer so that way it goes in alphabetical order. Or numerical order, alphabetical. I don't want numbers and everything. I'm going to rename this cupcake. And it's hidden, showing, it's hidden, showing. So the top image is going to be my floor. It's going to be my ground. The back image is going to be the wall behind it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to repaste this, Control-Shift-V, and that's going to paste it in the center. I'm going to take this, I'm going to flip it, or I'm going to turn it 90 degrees. It doesn't matter. At this point, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to shrink the size so that way it kind of squares up with the edges a little bit more. Hold Shift and drag it up. I'll have it touching. Use your cupcake for reference on where you want things to be. Just think of the size and everything. Okay, so then using the second image, I'm going to repaste that as well. I'm going to leave it at that size. And what I'm going to do is hide that cupcake. Do that. Turn it. This is going to be a little complicated. Resize it a bit so that way it kind of squares off. Turn it again. Have it max to the bottom. And what this does is it makes the ratio of wall to floor a little bit more natural looking. So what I'm going to do now, because now we're using perspective. If you look down a street, if you look down a road, if you look really far ahead of you, you notice if you're looking at two sidewalks on either end, how they kind of meet up in the middle. Yeah, we want to create that illusion. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use I think it's the perspective tool. I'm going to click one corner and I'm going to drag it horizontally, and I'm going to have it meet up towards the edge, because if I go any further, then it's not going to work. Then going from perspective to distort, and what this is doing is now, see how it's looking kind of 3D-ish? Kind of. See, this would be the benefit of having your cupcake layer turned on. I just walked it up to the floor, and that kind of looks natural. Again, you can always edit that, but it looks like one solid piece of grunge texture. It looks like one taste of brick or cement or something, really old cement. We want to change that. So what's going to happen, I'm going to take this layer, I'm going to take the wall layer, and I'm going to put a gradient over it, and I'm going to have it at 90 degrees, and I'm going to have it at the basic black and white, black at the bottom, white at the top. I don't want that. Now we're going to use the multiply tool. And what this is going to do is it's going to see, as you can see, like anywhere that's black, it darkened and made black. Anywhere that's white and lighter, it changed it. And because it's affecting the entire pasted grunge texture, the white area is actually surpassing past the canvas, not staying within the canvas. So that's something to take into consideration. And I'm going to decrease the opacity to a 40. And so that starts separating out. That starts the separation from the wall to the floor, but that doesn't look too natural. So I'm going to take the ground layer and I'm going to add an outer glow and an inner shadow. Because if I added an inner glow, there will be a glow at the bottom in the front, and you don't want that. That doesn't look too natural in itself. So start with the outer glow. And the default is it's going to have a glowy color, and it's going to be more like it's supposed to suggest it's going to be a glow, but we're going to use it for shadow purposes. So I'm going to change the blend mode to normal. You can do multiply as well. And I'm going to change that color to black. And you can kind of see it. You might not. And I'm going to change the size to 25, 50, 75, 150. There you go. And I'm going to change the opacity to, now you can really see it, and it's really small. I'm going to change it to 50. And then I'm going to change the inner shadow, because right now this piece is going to be darker because there is a gradient and there is a darker section underneath it. So what I'm going to do with the inner shadow is I'm going to change the distance. The distance can say 3. This can say the default. I can go to 150 with this. So 150 and same setting, right? That's 50. And this is at 50 as well with a 150 size brush or size, 50 opacity. But I'm going to increase it a little bit, same size. And there you go. See, now it looks a little bit more natural with, there's no control on the right side of this keyboard, and it's upsetting greatly. But there you go. Now your background looks a little bit more natural, like there is an actual floor to it. And again, if it doesn't look natural to you, then go ahead and fix it. You can adjust it in any way, shape, or form you want. Don't be stuck on what I'm saying. Experiment, guys. That's what Photoshop's here for. I'm here to give you ideas on how to do things. Maybe I like 40 more. Maybe I like 35 more. 35 looks good. Not even gonna lie. There you go. There's the background, and then now we want to get to our cupcake. So the cupcake, I'm going to use the magic wand tool, not the quick select. Whoop, I'm on the wrong layer. See, this is what happens. This is what happens. So I'm going to be on the cupcake layer. I'm going to select that. See, the tolerance is at 32. So any color that's very similar in range is going to pick up. I don't like that because see these marching ants right here? That's what these are called, these little moving lines. They're called marching ants because something looks like ants that are marching. Marching ants are going into this cupcake. I don't want that. You don't want that. So let's bring the tolerance down to a 10. Select off, select on. And there you go. Like, there it is. But if I was to backspace, you get that white line around it, and you don't want that. And because I deselected and I hit Control Z, it's going to bring the selection back. And if I hit it again, the selection is going to disappear. Why? Because Control Z only goes back one edit, and a deselection and the selection is considered an edit. So what you want to do is in your Windows tab, you can go ahead and hit History, click History, and then you can go even further back. But I think you can only go back 50, 25, something like that. You can only go back a limited number of times. And then whatever that top one is, that's where it is. So I don't want that. I don't want that harsh white line. So I'm going to use the refine edge tool. But before I do that, because the selection is going to refine the refine edge tool is going to refine the selection that's generally selected. So whatever gets affected here on the edge of the cupcake is going to get affected on the edge of this white grayish area. Again, you don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hit shift and I'm going to also select the background on this cupcake layer. So it would be the transparent area. I'm also going to select this transparent area. And then I'm going to hit select, inverse, refine edge. So I want it on the layers underneath because I'm obviously going to use that as reference, and I need to make sure that there's no harsh edge in comparison, because if you do it on a white or if you do it on a black, it's going to look one way, but then once it shows on what you're actually working with, it's going to be something completely different. So I know my shift edge needs to be at about 100. Get rid of that as quickly as possible. Okay, so I'm going to decontaminate the colors. 100. Do a radius of 5. And see, that white line disappeared. Smooth this by 10. Feather it by 2.5. And then do a contrast. Ooh, I'm not liking there's an edge down here that I don't like. I don't like that edge down there on both sides. Maybe if I shift the edge a little bit less. Trial and error, people. Trial and error. And then I can do the radius a little bit lower. It goes down a little bit higher. You know what? Good enough. I'm not going to waste your time trying to get this 100% absolutely perfect because I already have a cup. Oh, hey, it disappeared. Just disregard everything I just currently said. So now we have a cupcake copy, and so the original, the unedited, uncut, trimmed thing is now down here, which is dope. Cool. So this is a layer mask, and although you can work with this, personally I don't. So hit Control J, Command J on this layer you're on, or you can take the layer and then drag it down onto the new layer icon, and then it'll duplicate the layer as well. So for masks, just because we're at this point right now, I'm actually lock these two cupcakes, and then I'm gonna hide them. I might as well lock these layers as well. So you see this chain right here? These chain links. So that means these are linked together. So wherever I move the cupcake, the layer mask moves with it. Or if I go to the layer mask, wherever that layer mask moves, so does the cupcake. They're linked. If I was to unlink them and I was to move the cupcake, that layer mask is still there and the cupcake is magically floating within it. And if I was to do the layer mask instead, the layer mask would move and the cupcake image would stay still. But it's still, that's a cool effect. I guess, but I don't want that. You don't want that. So there's that. So we'll lock it. We'll actually link it together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and do apply layer mask. And so now this is now its own thing. It's all together. I don't have to worry about the mask. It's just a solid layer now. It's cut as if I was to use a selection tool, or if I was to use the eraser tool and then just erase the image around it. So back to I'm a traditional artist. I'm gonna make this cupcake look a little bit more natural to the surroundings. So what I usually do is I make the image a little bit smaller so that way I can kind of see it all at once, and my eyes aren't working too hard to try and determine what looks right and looks wrong, because that looks like it doesn't belong there. It doesn't. So I'm going to go to adjustments, brightness and contrast. I'm going to put brightness down a little bit. a little bit. And then the contrast I can bump up a little bit more, but not too over dramatic. Usually 20 to 25 is nice for this purpose. So then I'm going to go to levels. And I'm going to increase the levels a little bit as well. So 15 for that, and I'm going to do 0.98 for the brown, for the grays, and then I'm going to go to a 45 for the lights. And now it's starting to look a little bit more natural to the surrounding, but it's still not 100% absolutely positively there yet. So then you can go to curves, and you can mess around with curves. These are just, right now, usually I typically don't use curves, but for demonstration purposes, just so that you guys know that it's here, the curves will also start adjusting specific aspects of the image accordingly. Now, for me to explain how curves work, it's going to take another half hour, and I'm not going to do that. There you go. There's that. And then we can also do exposure. And I'm not going to do exposure. But again, these adjustments are here. Just mess around with them. Vibrance. I want this to be a little bit more vibrant. That is definitely something that comes with the darkness of the image. So thinking ahead, I'm not going to make it too vibrant now because I'm going to add a vibrant adjustment layer later. So there you go. It kind of, the color looks right for the environment that this is, because yeah, you get cupcakes from really sketchy dark alleys. Go in. Now this is where it gets fun. So I'm going to use the burn tool and the dodge tool now. So what the burn tool and the dodge tool do is they'll highlight and contour your image accordingly. If you're a makeup guru and you know makeup, you know exactly what that means. If you don't know what that means, it basically, contouring means darkening areas, highlighting means lightening areas. So the burn tool darkens because it burns it. Think of it that way. When you burn, you get all ashy. So I'm gonna bring this size up. 374 looks like it's too big. Too big, guys? Too big. Too big. So 281. And then the range. The range matters. The range does matter, and the exposure matters as well, because those determine how much the tool affects the image. So that's why I created a second layer. So that way, if I didn't like the results of it, it's not a total loss, because I can just delete the layer and then start over again on the saved layer underneath it. So I'm gonna go to midtones, because these are midtones. If I was to black and white it using this technique real quick, and color. If I was to black and white it, you can see that this liner area is more of the midtones. Back to the burn tool. The frosting is more of the highlights, and then the cupcake and the stars themselves are shadows. So if I go into midtones with an exposure of 50, and I go around the edge, can you see it starting to darken? Let me do this on this side as well. You can see it's starting to darken, right? You don't want it to be too dramatic, because you don't want it to look fake. And then when I bring it up, you can see that is darkening very, very nicely. Okay. So again, this is think logically, think practically. I'll do this back area, darken that a little bit. Bring more depth to it. So if it's in midtones, it will affect these midtone colors a lot more than it would a lighter area. If you go to highlights, it will definitely show in the lighter areas, more so than the darker or the midtone areas. So we don't want that. So then increase the brush size. Decrease that. And then the exposure. The higher the exposure, the darker the image gets. Yeah. No, I'm good, thank you. Sorry for that, guys. Living with parents, struggle is real. But anyways, so I kind of like how that looks. A little bit more natural. Looks a little bit more, but I'm not 100% satisfied with it because I don't believe that the light source would be very harsh around the edges. So I'm gonna do an inner glow, normal, black, and I'm gonna increase the size to 25. And then I'm gonna decrease this to a 10. You want it to be subtle because you want the edges to be a little bit darker, but you don't want it to be too dramatically black. See what I'm saying? So now we have a cupcake kind of looking natural in its environment, but it's not 100% natural because where's the shadow, right? Where's the cupcake shadow? So what you can do is you can go ahead and duplicate the cupcake layer and resize it and then color it black and then blur it. That's a lot of work. I'm not down for that. So I'm going to take the brush tool. I'm going to increase the brush size. I'm going to decrease this not down to 0, but to 25. 25. There we go. I'm increase this brush size to 350. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at where the light source is coming from on the cupcake. So the light source is coming from, let me do this, it's coming from right here. So let's pretend the light is right here, and I'm going to delete this layer in a little bit. So light is coming down here. So if I was to think about a shadow and how it will be casted, it will go down, and then the shadow will start here. It'll come out this way, and it'll come out that way. And there'll be a little shadow over here as well. Okay. But obviously, the light is not that dark, or not that bright, and it's not bright enough to create a shadow like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lower the opacity. 35 actually looks pretty nice. Good job, David. And then I'm going to blur it a bit. Not too much, though. There we go. And I think I'm going to move it down a little bit more. Arrows for this. See, now it actually looks like it exists in that world, and that cupcake is part of that world. Part of your world. But there we go. We have the cupcake is actually now in a state where it looks really natural to the environment, and now we can make it look, the entire environment look completely unnatural. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna do color techniques. I'm gonna do what I showed you before with coloring thing, and I'm just gonna go with my brush, and I'm gonna bring up the brush hardness and getting all excited. Break it down, brush size it down a little bit so that way I can get a cleaner edge on what I'm doing. And I'm gonna go and choose color, and I want it to be, let's do blue frosting again because I like the color blue, and I'm getting really excited, and I'm getting overly excited about something I probably shouldn't be getting too excited about, even though I've done this before, and there's a lot of different things. So again, like I said, that just go ahead and quickly color this, and do your thing. I like to start with the edges and work my way in, just so that way, because why spend so much time on the inside when there's going to be an outline to it anyways? They'll color within the lines, but you have to create the line first, right? So now let's color it. Oh, okay, that's a thing. No, I did that intentionally, guys. Don't think I did whatever. Remember how I told you that on the white, I think this image is still here. On the white, it doesn't matter because there's a clean edge, right? Because that white does not soak up the color. But because the background is a gray and it's not a 100% black, 100% white, it picks up. Look, see, I can actually color this entire background. And I'm gonna leave that because I think that's cool. Okay, no, I don't. I don't think that's cool at all. That's really poorly done. So what I'm gonna do is I am actually going to right-click and go to Create Clipping Mask. And there you go. Now it created, in essence, a mask for that layer without creating a mask, because the mask exists on the layer underneath it, which is the cupcake. So whatever the shape is, whatever is shown on just the cupcake itself, that's the mask. That's what everything's like. All the transparent part of this image, of this cupcake, all this transparent area, all the transparent area is the mask itself. And there you go. So again, Just because these stars are black does not mean that they haven't picked up any color, because they aren't 100% black, because if they were 100% black, then they would not look like they exist on the cupcake. So what I'm going to do, quick selection tool, go onto the cupcake layer, and then there we go. I like using the quick selection tool for selections like this, because if you were to use the actual magic wand tool, oh, my bad, no, you don't want to do that. Select inverse, so that way so the stars are not selected and everything else is, and then you want to click on your blue layer or whatever layer you want to mask, and then click the mask, and it will mask everything away from it. Unlike how I showed you before, and I totally had the star selected and only the blue in the star areas were the wrong thing. There we go. So there's that. So then what I want to do is I want to start recoloring different areas of cupcake, Harry. And I'm going to change my brush size. 61 is fine. And I'm going to start coloring accordingly. I might as well go in rainbow order, right? So let's start with this pinkish reddish color. This, I guess, fuchsia. And so, again, think realistically. Think where things would fall and how they would fall into certain areas. So there is the pink. And I'm going to do all the coloring on all the extra coloring on one layer. And it doesn't matter about the edge because I'm going to create a clipping mask anyways. So then I'm going to go into the orange, the anaranjado, and then I'm going to go and create that. And again, think realistically. Think to what the petal of the frosting is and where it lands. And there's that. And then yellow. So the area is a lot larger. It kind of looks like Rainbow Dash from My Little Pony. Don't ask how I know that. So then I'm going to go color. And as you can see, you can start filling in a little bit more, and it's starting to look really pretty. I'm liking it. And so let's do the other side, and let's do a purple on the other side of the pink. As you can see, colored star. So what I'm going to do, right click, create clipping mask. And then I'm going to control or command, click the stars, select inverse, and then mask it again. Oh, that was wrong. That was totally wrong. My bad. Just control command and then mask it. My bad. My bad. Make it really quick. And let's just go and quickly do the rest of this top layer. Because again, you can color this now on the same layer and it won't affect the other colors except cover them. That way you have more. And again, with the clipping mask created, we don't have to worry about that edge. But these edges we do have to worry about. So be wary of that. Okay. So doing that, I realized it's going to take a long time to do the entire cupcake, so I'm not going to do that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get into the whole galaxy and making it sparkle and things like that. So like in my previous tutorial for the Ariana Grande Galaxy tutorial, what you want to do is search up Galaxy Nebula Moonchild Nebula stocks, and what you want to do is you want to select ones that you feel will shape around your cupcake very well. I really like the way this looks. I think it's a little blurry though. I think this is, yep, this is one of the ones that are blurry, so I can't use that. This one's a nice one. So I'm gonna go copy image. I'm gonna paste it. And look how pretty. Just kidding. Screen. Screen. I want screen done. Okay. So that's not too fantabulous. Does anyone still use that? Am I relevant? So what's going to happen is I'm going to go to image adjustments levels 0.5, 0.90, and then bring this to a 30, 230. I'm going to create a mask. I'm going to start erasing, bring the hardness down to a 0, because this is a galaxy and light doesn't harshly just stop in the middle of nowhere, unless there's a wall in the way, but obviously that's not the case with this cupcake. I'm going to start blending this outwards, and I kind of want to make it, this to make it look like it's hugging the cupcake. Cupcakes. So I want some of it to overlap the frosting, and I want some of it to not overlap the frosting and to actually fall behind it. So I don't like that color. So if I was to go and click, because you can't adjust the image if you have the mask selected, because then now you're adjusting and you're working on the mask. So I'm going to go hue and saturation, change the hue a bit. There we go. Increase the saturation. Okay. There's one. Now what you have to do is just take other ones, use other ones, again, for demonstration purposes and for project demonstrations, again, just example, use images off the internet. They're there. I'm not saying take credit for them, and always give credit where credit is due. Man, it's so hard to find high quality graphics like this on a big scale, because again, these are smaller images. As you can see, as I'm pasting them, they're relatively small in comparison to the Ariana Grande workshop and how easy it was for me to get different sized images. So again, just fit your galaxy to wherever you feel fits best and adjust the galaxies accordingly. Don't use the same, you know what I mean? Don't use the same settings for every image, because every image is going to be different. And then just think realistically when it comes to doing galaxies and stars and things of that nature. Again, I love Moonchild Nebulas because she has amazing stocks stock images, not color dodge. I'm trying to rush this, guys, because I know this is a very tedious process, and me doing that original image took hours, so I'm trying to be quick about it. So I apologize if I'm not talking as much. I'm focused. I'm in the zone, auto zone. Just the hue saturation. Pink. And again, if you're wondering why they're not as these galaxies are not as big as the one in this image, is because that cupcake was smaller. This cupcake is huge in comparison to that one. So then I'll use this one. This is not high quality. Copy image. And you want to think naturally and adjust the colors according to what the frosting says, because the frosting does speak, yes. Screen that. Create a mask. Because you can do this any way you want. Again, the masks, and I explained this in the previous one, you may do a mask first, like I just did, and then adjust your settings afterwards, it may want to adjust the mask. That's why I don't erase. Oh, I was adjusting the wrong thing. Adjusting the mask. So 25. On the right one. Yeah. And for just demonstration's sake, I'm going to use one last one. There you go. There's the galaxies kind of coming out. Again, the results will get better if you find better, higher quality, larger images to fit your cupcake, because look how big that cupcake is in comparison to that cupcake. You see the difference. So then what you can do is you can actually use screen, and you can actually just use plain brushes to create more pops of color and more pops of light. Like if you were to take a pink and increase the brush size. And screen it, you create that little kind of pop of color. And it's more effective the larger the brush size is actually, but not ridiculously big. How ridiculously big that is. You want to think to the size of the cupcake and to the size of your object that you're doing galaxies and colors and stuff like that. You don't want to do a couple of greens. And I try to do screens if I'm doing these pops of colors on different layers. Just because I don't want them fighting. Instead, I want them kind of on top of each other, working with one another instead of fighting each other. And when you see how the colors don't necessarily blend with each other once you start covering them. So there's that. And then I want to create an adjustment layer for levels. I want this to be dark. I want this to be completely defined. Oh, that's too dark. So then the grays can be at 95. And this could be at 35. 45. And we'll go back to vibrance. To 820. 25. What vibrance and saturation does is vibrance is bringing out the color, saturation it saturates the color. There's a difference, and it's more, again, this is something that's going to take me like hours to explain. Maybe not if that's dramatic, but there is a difference. And I typically use vibrance and not saturation, because if you've ever saturated your skin, if you're editing a picture of yourself, you start looking more orange or more white, depending on what your skin tone is. I always go back and go in, create new layers, because I want more pops. I feel like I need more pops of purple in there. So again, screen is going to show darker areas. Maybe I want an orange in there as well. New layer. Screen. So then I'm going to teach you something that you can do with the brush tool on Photoshop. And basically, if you've ever wondered what this is, the brush panel, basically what you can do with this is you can, let's hide these layers first, and let's bring this down here. So if you go to brush, you can actually adjust the spacing and the size ratios of the brush more so than just this, like this toggle size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create sparkles, like a fairy dust. And what you can do is you can bring the brush size down to maybe a 25, and that's really small, so maybe a 50 is better. And then you can do the spacing. You can see how in this little display box right here, you can see the spacing a little more. And what would be nice is to do maybe a 175 spacing right here. And then you can do shape dynamics. And what this does is this will change the sizes. And like, let's do a size jitter of 85. And then the minimum diameter at 0%. Angle jitter and doesn't really matter because it's round. It's a circle. And then you can do because you know, sometimes sparkles and glitter falls at different angles and it will create a different shape. And scattering. So scatter, too much. But it will go on. See how it's moving? Yeah, that's what the scattering does. So I don't want it on both axes, I just want it vertically. And then do a 2 count. And I don't want to count jitter. So what I'm going to do now is on a new layer that I haven't selected, I'm going to take the pen tool, and I'm going to start here. I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to create another point on the exact opposite, and I'm going to pull the anchors up, creating a curve. See that? Gotta create the curve around the cupcake. And then I want to go back to the other side and then create a curve as well, right here. Go back in on the top, create a curve. Go back on this side a little higher, create a curve. And then finally, towards the top of the cupcake, create that final curve. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have my foreground color be white. Right click on the path, and this is called a path that we just created. Stroke path, tool the brush, because we just edited all the brush settings. Simulate pressure. What this means is if you've ever painted and you were to just do a stroke of paint across the canvas, you notice that it's not a solid line, like it's tapers on both ends. So that's what this is going to do. That's what the simulate pressure. So at where the line that we created starts and ends, it's going to be smaller. And then towards the middle, it's going to get larger. So with all those settings and with it being white and simulate pressure and everything, we're going to click OK. And see that it created this nice right click delete path. It created this nice little kind of fairy dusty kind of effect. And what I want to do is I'm going to create a layer mask, and I'm going to reset, and usually just clicking the brush again, it's going to reset the brush settings, because if you try to do the brush while it's still setting, you're going to get this kind of scattered effect that you may not want. So I'm going to go and I'm going to erase pieces. I'm going to basically erase every other line, so that way it kind of looks like it's the fairy dust is wrapping around. There we go, we recreated fairy dust. And you can do that. You don't have to do the circles. You can do like lines that go in opposite directions, or you can go in, you know, weird shapes, and you can still use that kind of technique. And if you were to get rid of the simulate pressure, it will just create a solid line, or a solid, it wouldn't create that gradient or that kind of tapering effect that you see with this. So finally, let's title this and let's create it. And again, you can spend more time on this. You don't have to be done here. You can actually color more of the crossing, or you can do more things of that nature. And the font that I use for this, believe it or not, was Trajan. So create a new font. Cupcake 2. And this font right here is called Ballpark Wiener. I have it because I'm a font junkie, and I love fonts, so I have tons downloaded, and I download new ones every day. So Ballpark Wiener, just type in Trajan, and usually it is a right there. Did I use bold? No, I didn't. So regular with a spacing of 200, just because I don't know, spacing between letters just looks more fancy to me. And then I did an outer glow. And you can leave it up the screen or whatever. And then I'm gonna do 150, 25. Here we go again with the guess and check. And I also did a drop shadow. I had it at 90 degree out of 50. A distance of 10. A distance of 25. And a spread of 50. It's subtle, but it's there. I don't need to tie this whole thing together because maybe you don't like the background being black or gray and things of that nature. Maybe you want to make it blue or pink-ish, have that tint, but you want the cupcake to still look natural to the environment. So what you want to do is you want to go to your adjustment layers again, and you want to click gradient, and then you can change the gradient fill. And there should be presets right here, presets, and let's do color harmonies, a pen. I don't like any of those. Color harmonies 2, a pen. Nah. Photographic toning. Yes. Okay. My bad. I lied to you. I apologize. It's not this one. I want to go to gradient map, not just gradients. See what it did? See what it did? See how it changed everything? See how it changed everything? Yeah, you want that. I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna actually pick blue color. Not that one. That one. It's more of a tealish, but you know, you get the point. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go to soft light. And see what it did. It completely transformed the image. Something so simple can transform an image so greatly. Bring that down. 40. That way it's subtle. And there you go. There's your cupcake image, your interstellar. And again, the smaller the cupcake, the smaller the image, the more options you have, because then your galaxies get bigger and you have more range, and you can always expand on that knowledge. So when you're done with this project, you can go ahead and file, save as, and you can save it to the Creative Cloud, which is fine. In fact, I'm gonna do that. So let's do a new folder, cupcake demo. And then I usually just do 001 because I keep my things in folders anyways, but you can title it whatever you want and save it, and now it's a PSD. Photos, yep, do that. And it should save, so that's saving 0. And you can see the save progress right there. Layers, and then flat this drop down at the top, click the layers panel, and towards the bottom there should be a flat image. This card hidden layers. Yep. And there you go. You can save it again. Save as, not just save the file format. Is what I'm trying to quote file. So, and I always say PNG. You can say JPEG, whatever your little heart desires. I see the difference. Other people may not notice it as easily. So it's saving down. Wait, it's be 100%. There we go. So what I'm going to do is, and what you guys should do when you guys are finished with your projects, is go to Behance and sign up for Behance. It's really easy to go to Behance.net, not .com, and sign up for an account. So go ahead and sign up. If you have an Adobe ID, you can go ahead and just enter your information there, and then just fill out any extra boxes that are catered to Behance itself. And I apologize for how slow this is going. Sign up. Sign up. Sign up. I apologize. I'm just everything as well. You can enter your first and last name, and everything should already be in there. But because I'm not signing up again, and I'm not going to set up multiple accounts, there's no need for me to do that. I'm just going to log in. So if I was to go into Creative Cloud again, go into assets. Open the folder. I'll open because it's its own folder on your Creative Cloud. So log in. I want to log in, please. So I'm gonna log in on Behance, and I'm gonna show you how to upload the project. So you can either log in or sign up for Behance, and you can click the Add Work button, or you can add work through the cloud, and you can just click Add Work here as well. Nope, loaded it like 7 times. Slow. I don't even know why it's going so slow. And it will take you to your page, and then again, you go to Add Work, Add Project. Or if you're working on it, you can tell people that you're working on it and add work, I guess. So basically what you do is once you start adding work, it will ask you to upload a photo first. So upload a file. I'm gonna go into favorites. No, this PC. This PC. Creative files, cupcake demo. See, I have my PNG and then I have my PSD. So I'm going to PNG, upload that, and I think it's a larger file, so it'll take a little bit longer to upload. Just waiting on that. Oh, it is too large. So what you have to do is you have to shrink down the file. But anyways, so you can go and I showed this in my previous workshop that you can go and edit everything. You can upload your files, you can add descriptions, you can do things of that nature, and then it will pop up under your portfolio. I don't think I have this uploaded. I don't. It'll pop up and then it'll show in the portfolio style setting. All right. Man, I know that was a lot of information. I hope I was able to explain a lot for you guys. So let's stop sharing the screen. So yeah, So yeah, that was the end. I hope you guys enjoyed that little workshop. I hope you guys enjoyed what I had to teach you with Photoshop. And I hope you learned something new if this is your first time watching a workshop of mine, or if you've seen previous ones. I hope this clarified, and I hope you guys got inspired to do different techniques and use the different tools in different ways. Different was used a lot. I know, I apologize. So if you want to be notified through YouTube, go ahead and select about, if you want to be notified about when my next workshop is through YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and I'll let you know that way. If you want to be notified in any other way, you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, and I'll be posting news about when my next workshops are and things of that nature. And don't forget to sign up for a Behance profile and upload your projects and tag me in them at #MakeThis, #MadeThis, and #DavidVermillo. All the information is in the description below, because I really want to see your projects. Because I want to inspire you to inspire me. See what I'm saying? So it's a trade-off. So if you guys enjoyed this workshop, let me know what you guys actually want to learn. Let me know if you have any questions, if you have any concerns about Photoshop or getting a free trial or anything of that nature. Feel free to shoot a message my way, and I'll try to answer it to the best of my abilities. Everyone have a great Thursday night. I'll see you in the next workshop.